Okay, hi everybody. It's Kevin here for another Elrond Eco Chat. This is our second edition. Today we are going to be discussing Aurus. Aurus is a tokenized precious metal system that'll be rolling out on Elrond, but is also available currently. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Guido Stijn, the managing director, and Jonathan Boyd, the global head of development. And they're going to just give you a brief overview of who they are, how they met, what Aurus is all about, and why they feel it's a good fit for the blockchain industry as a whole.
Thanks, Kevin. It's actually Guido van Stijn, but that doesn't matter. We actually started the firm. My background is in mining and commodity trading, which I've been doing out of London and lately out of Amsterdam for the past 15 years. And in 2018, I run into our CTO, Dan Kernel, who is one of the brains behind the technology still also of the Aorus protocol. And we merged actually his brain and expertise in blockchain, my expertise in commodities and mining, to set something up that can benefit the entire industry. So we decided to go after a smart contract or a protocol that would benefit the industry, the traditional precious metals markets, instead going after it in a yourself approach. And that was how Aurus was actually born. And as we grew from the office in London to the office in Amsterdam to the office in Bucharest, new people came on board. John actually came on board as an Aurus investor first, and John is South African and was so enticed by the project that he now joined as a director of global business development. So in a nutshell, that's how my little background from in this commodity space, more the traditional market. And John may introduce himself.
Yeah, so as Guido said there, Kevin, thanks for the intro. I come from South Africa, and I think from a team perspective, we've got a rich and solid background in precious metals. So from brokerage, from understanding the precious metals networks, from refineries upstream and downstream, in our direct team within the founders of Guido, and then obviously from a tech side, on blockchain lead side, Dan, who has built all the blockchain infrastructure. So we've got a great blend. I mean, looking at my background being in traditional finance, from financial advisory and corporate structuring and asset management, we combine all of that to, I think, bring a really well-balanced team, right, from operations and management on a day-to-day. And then we've also then looked at our non-exec advisory board and strengthened that further with industry leaders, guys who have experience from the LBMA, which we'll touch on, from the World Gold Council, who have run big refineries and big gold and silver companies in their past. So yeah, a very strong team with traditional finance and with blockchain technology as well combined.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear that you guys have that wealth of traditional finance and as well on the back end the blockchain tech. I think merging both of those is a really big advantage to anyone who does that nowadays. That's where the future is for sure. Okay, so we have a ton of questions to get through, so I guess we'll just get going on those questions. How are you different from the other guys out there in the tokenizing of precious metals market?
Well, I think the main difference is we actually ourselves are, of course, not tokenizing any metals. We developed a system where we empower our partners, the precious metal market players. So we have multiple gold brokers already around the world using our ecosystem to tokenize their metals. And that's totally different, of course, than the couple of players that are currently out there who went for a centralized approach by running their own books or running their own synthetic products, whereas we actually don't run our own books. We cannot touch the gold that's on the Aorus blockchain or protocol. it's minted by our partners. Therefore, there is no single point of failure also. That's a massive, of course, difference than any other gold, or I don't think there's any silver or platinum backed token at the moment, but from the gold token perspective, nobody does it in this way. It's all centralized approach. So in the end, it's not really that different than when you actually tokenizing an ETF, because the ground layer is still a centralized managed book. That's not what we do.
Got it. So how does the one-to-one backing work?
It works, for instance, we have our partner, for example, in Turkey. They bring a kilobar to an independent vault, the Borsa Istanbul. It gets code signed on the blockchain, and therefore the 1,000 grams, so a kilobar, is then first audited. Is it 1,000 grams? Is the kilo? Is it gold? Blah blah blah. Then it is co-signed on the blockchain, and we have actually then a one-on-one backing, because then there's 1,000 AWG tokens are minted, go back to the Turkish provider that put the bullion in the vault there at Borsa Istanbul, and then can be sold into the market.
Yeah, that's really cool to have all that stuff backed like that. That's actually really big strength.
And it can be traced also, because we built the system in such a way that actually the vault itself works with their own native token. It's a non-fungible token, ERC721, which is the identifier token for the specific bar, its refiner, its bar number, its serial number, and can be traced back then after it's minted to the ERC20. So every gold token you own can be traced back to always the individual gold bar it was ever minted from. It doesn't matter if it's in the vault in Borsa Istanbul, or at Loomis in Singapore, or at Brinks in Zurich, or Kitco in Montreal. It can be traced back all to the vaults where it lies and it was minted from.
That's awesome. How many countries are you in?
I think already...
It's about 13 countries now.
13?
That tokens have been distributed in, and gold being vaulted in probably 5 or 6 countries at the moment. But we've got distributors in probably another 5 or 6 countries, and some of them actually have branched out. For instance, our distributor in South America has clients in multiple South American countries already too.
It's a little bit of an oil stain it's getting, because in some regions we are growing faster than in other regions. And when I say we and our partners, because we are advocating for the brand, where our partners are actually advocating for the gold, silver, and platinum token behind it. But definitely, demand is growing in multiple regions globally.
So it's safe to say that your ecosystem is quite large.
It's scaling at the moment, because we have been there was a lot of development, and we are actually now at some breaking point where we turning the tide and have hooked up a lot of international players who are now starting the distribution of the tokens. And like last month, we only integrated the Borsa Istanbul, which is one of the biggest vaulter of physical gold in the world, and also one of the biggest gold markets in the world. Turkey is, I think, number 4. After China, India, and Germany. So that's, massive to get something like that as a partner. I mean, you have to thank that because of our network also on the board level. I mean, we work with the ex-CEO of Spider, the biggest gold ETF in the world. The ex-LBMA executive director. So we have a lot of people in the world that can open these doors for us and access these markets.
Yeah, the big difference there is also our ability to scale, which is quite clear. The ecosystem is able to scale globally because of the decentralized approach.
Yeah, that's incredible. Yeah. That's really good to hear. So I keep hearing this thing that you guys are LBMA accredited gold. So what does that mean exactly?
Well, it's a standard for refineries. So it's a standard that you are dealing with gold that has a specific dynamics in purity, specific dynamics in ESG, where it was sourced from, that you don't have any conflict materials. The LBMA works for gold and silver markets. LPPM works for the platinum and palladium market, where we only incorporated the platinum into our system at the moment.
Right. So for a traditional investor wanting to get on, then that would mean they'd have the same certification that they would buying regular gold. But they are basically buying gold just in tokenized asset.
Yeah, it provides one of the highest levels of standards of quality and source of that gold, right? That is globally recognized.
Cool. So we now know that the metals are dispersed physically across, multiple countries, vaults, brokers, etc.
Yeah.
But what are the advantages of me going with you then with traditional finance? Now we talked about decentralization, NFTs, which I think is a huge one, and that else. But what else would take, a Peter Schiff or someone, a big gold player to move over to you guys, and why would it be more advantageous?
Yeah, I think Guido touched on the point there of ETFs, and we've looked at this, and I think the market will move towards tokenization. You mentioned a Peter Schiff or whoever else a big kind of player is in the social media area regarding gold, but the market. If you tokenize an asset, right, you can divide it, you can transfer it easily, you can prove ownership, you can transfer that ownership easily, right? Instant settlement of that asset, which is breaking down a lot of the barriers that are present in metals, right, and the actual logistics around metals, and the settlement of metals, right, and also a 9-to-5 market for metals, right, which currently exists. So if you just break it down to those basics, we believe that with the sort of curve of technological advancement and adoption of blockchain, that majority of metals will be tokenized because it is just a more superior way to actually interact with them and to trade them. So I think in time, people will come. Regarding Aurus, well, we're very much focused on DeFi as well and providing further ability to generate yield from your metals. Not just owning that metal and hoping that it would go up in price, but also generates a yield in this global environment of, negative rates, money printing, year on year inflation of 13%. Now we're seeing it's unsustainable. So you are going to get protection from precious metals. We're now making it easier for people to access that in small amounts or large amounts, but then also allow them to be able to earn yield on those metals too.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. I mean, earning yield and cutting out the middleman is such a huge advantage to DeFi. And then, you take that with metals. I think a lot of people, including myself, will move over. Right? I've been slowly moving over into tokenized for metals and stuff, but I haven't taken the full launch myself. So seeing something like this and reading up on you guys over the past couple of weeks has been quite an honor, and understanding where you guys are going. So that's awesome. One question, we have a tech question that's kind of around what mechanisms do you ensure that the Oracle will always make sure that your tokens are pegged exactly to the price of gold or any metal for that matter?
Of course, the system is arbitrage. So we have multiple parties that actually make the pricing in the Aorus market. So we don't set price. We don't say this is the price of a gold token. I mean, it's sold all globally already. It's sold against the Chilean peso, against the Turkish lira, against the Singapore dollar, against the US dollar, against the euro. So there's price discrepancy there on the exchange levels also. So our partners set pricing for themselves, which is mostly a couple of pips above the price of the metal itself, for instance, gold. And the market makers itself play the arbitrage game in making sure it's pegged to the price of gold on exchanges, because a discrepancy on a Singapore dollar compared to a Turkish lira is an opportunity.
Yeah.
And the market, obviously, market makers who into the game and provide enough liquidity do trade around, multiple indexes to ensure, smooth pricing oracles. Plus, it's a self-regulating mechanism, as Guido mentioned, where you've got physical brokers with combine that with the digital space. So there will always be if there is a slight discrepancy between the physical and the digital prices, those will be arbitraged against each other to regulate that price back to the median.
Yeah. So basically, what you're saying, you'll be relying on both the traditional arbitrage techniques, and brokers will be spotting this. And gold being what, a $9 trillion market. I think last time I looked, the market cap. Then yeah, you should find that price discrepancy from your oracle or from the actual price won't last very long at all because of the general liquidity of gold itself.
Yeah.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So are services available to everyone anywhere? And how is tokenization precious metals improve the future blockchain? So I guess just, are they available to anyone and anywhere? Is there any countries of restriction with Aurus?
Well, I think, there's a difference between, with centralized finance and decentralized finance. So DeFi, yeah, it's pretty much available to anybody, right? And the more pairs we set up and the more dexes available across chains, yeah, that would be, if you understand, access through DeFi, yes, anyone can access that really with an internet connection and a little bit of tech savvy. With centralized finance, that'll be dependent on the exchanges, but we are looking at, and our model is with brokers and distributors in certain regions around the world, is to have pairs listed on exchanges localized to those regions. So there will always be fiat and on and off ramps available to end customers or end users of our brokers, distributors in the regions that we have those distributors around the world through the centralized exchanges.
Understood. So you guys are really taking a real hybrid approach to this.
Yeah, and I have to say also there, because we cannot see what the regulatory approach is in every region, of course, and that's why our local partners always go first via the regulatory way, like we did ourselves with the Financial Conduct Authority in London, where we are, where the company is based, the headquarters. And for instance, if we launch in Turkey and Chile, we first pass our legal opinion to local regulators, see what the feedback is, and most of the times it's okay, because gold, silver, and platinum fall in kind of a self-regulatory approach in most countries. Like they fall under self-regulated, like the London Bullion Market or the DMCC or the SPMI or the Shanghai Metals Exchange. So most countries have their self-regulatory approach when it comes to precious metals.
Yeah, it's basically the same for anything, right? So it'll all come down to your brokers and your ecosystem then. So that's good to know. Okay, so this question this is a question for me. Do you have to actually pay the storage cost somehow indirectly of while owning the token?
Well, it's not directly. I mean, there
indirectly is actually as well.
Indirectly.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah. It's indirectly, correct.
So somewhere within the fees that you charge is me paying for the storage of my gold.
Yeah, it's not that we charge it. I mean, the business intelligence of the smart contracts actually makes sure that our providers and vaulters in the ecosystem get a share of the fees generated by the transferability of the token. So if Aurus Gold is being traded and transferred, these fees are dispersed towards the vault, the company that provided it, the gold broker, and a portion goes to the holder of the Aurus DeFi token. So that's the fourth,
which is our utility token.
The Aurus DeFi token is our native utility token, which has some functionalities programmed into it. And one of the benefits of holding it is that you get a revenue stream on the tradability and, of course, of the tokens in our ecosystem. So gold, silver, platinum, which is also paid out towards it. So there's a pool, and if you have Aurus DeFi, you get paid in gold, silver, platinum based on the tradability.
That's awesome, because that's actually the beauty of blockchain, right? Is that you can just everything in smart contracts and actually just distribute things through utility tokens and create that. So the biggest issue with gold now is storage, how much that storage costs, etc. And I think you're solving that problem too as well.
Yeah. So there are some fees that go for the upkeep of the system, right? Which part of that is insurance, is storage, right? So security is not free, for any real asset.
In the end, it's the cost of money. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, but not seeing it is different, right? So if I have to pay a storage bill every month, that kind of annoys me. But now that I just know that I just transact and it happens automatically, then I don't necessarily pay for storage in my own psychology, you know?
Yeah, but the same goes with inflation. You have euros or dollars, and you think you're buying a house in 5 years' time, and after 5 years having your same paycheck, you come to the conclusion I cannot buy a house, and that's inflation.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah.
But yes, it does get taken indirectly. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. So, a good question here is, can we actually claim the physical asset? So
yes.
How would one go about doing that? So if I had, say, you know, one ounce of gold or something, and I had the token, I'd have to reach out to you guys in order to then acquire the gold myself.
No. We are not in between that trade, because, like I said before, Aurus is the global advocate,
The software provider,
and the software provider for the Aurus ecosystem. Our partners are the ones that can provide you with the gold or the physical asset. Because every token in, for instance, gold is traced back to a specific bar, if you want that specific bar, there can be an smart contract swap for that bar, because it's traced back by an ERC721. Yeah. Because that's traced for the bar. So if you have 1,000, for instance, AWG tokens, you can have it swapped for that one bar. If you want a smaller amount, like an ounce, you go to the broker and trade your AWG tokens for a 1 ounce bar.
Yeah.
Of course, there's a price discrepancy there, because AWG tokens trade for like pips above the gold price, whereas an ounce gold bar is 8% above the gold price, because it's a physical, smaller physical asset that has higher cost for a refinery to mint. So it's a little bit more expensive to purchase than, for instance, a kilo bar or a 400 ounce London big bar.
Understood. So someone would have to go through the brokers and all that stuff, and you guys are just providing that middle ground. I understood.
So you can the AWG tokens for the physical.
Yeah, perfect. So another question here: do you plan to peg anything else other than metals, say commodities, for example?
Interesting question. Yes, we are in very preliminary talks with the LME, London Metals Exchange, and yeah, we are looking at base metals, but that's the only thing I can say about that.
Fair enough. Yeah. So
yeah, to expand a little bit on that is, we provide tokenization as a service. So ultimately, yes, you know, anything with a real value, you know, you can tokenize it. We are doubling down on what we do best, which is precious metals right now, and I think the macro environment's screaming out for that, real assets with real value. And if you can generate yield on that, that's a game changer. So we want to try to keep it as simple as possible for now, double down, do it well, scale, and then assess any further opportunities thereafter. But the answer is, yeah, we do ultimately provide tokenization as a service.
Yeah, so you do plan eventually to add other products, which would be one of the next questions. Okay, so we're halfway through 2021, so I just extend this to, what are your goals for 2021 and 2022?
Well, the most exciting thing I think now for 2021 is that we, in a couple of months, the version 2 of the whole Aurus ecosystem will launch on together with a layer 2 solution.
Yeah.
Our new app will go live, our multi-asset wallet, our cards that holds the private key. Maybe John can elaborate on that a little bit more on the DeFi that's going to be launched with our partners. All the new parts are going to trade when the level 2 goes live beginning of October. The new website will go live then. We are talking now with 3 niche market exchanges for our local partners and 3 Tier A exchanges to list the whole ecosystem, all ecosystem tokens. So also by October. So October is going to be the big month where it's all, when the whole new thing, version 2 will go live. That will be the exciting thing for 2021.
Yeah, a lot of that is part of our roadmap. You can see on our, on our Telegram group and on the website there is a roadmap, outlining all of those goals. The big one would be the development of the layer 2 solution, to provide sort of micropayments, at negligible costs. That helps our whole distribution network. It also gives, and you can see a lot of the development on DeFi now moving towards layer 2s, to help them scale, to help them mitigate these high costs, these high fees, for arguably a lot of the rubbish that is trading on, a lot of blockchains, blocking them up. So the layer 2 solution will be a big goal. That'll help the whole ecosystem. And what it will also facilitate is our revenue sharing model for AWX and for our distributors, right? Which we touched on earlier. Because if that's distributing gold, silver, and platinum tokens, or at least fractions of as revenue to AWX holders and to distributors of and tokenizers of the metals, you need a cost-effective way to actually, send those smaller transactions as the network is scaling, right?
Yeah, and so you talk about going to layer 2, and I'm just going to go off script for a sec. So you are doing you are partnering with Elrond to get your tokens onto Mire and all that sort of stuff, which is actually a layer 1, which is a layer 1 exchange. So would you ever consider using Elrond as a layer 1 for those micro payments opposed to a layer 2? Layer 2s are great, but they also will eventually come with their problems of high fees. Someone else has asked this question too, I believe. Just how do you plan to deal with the eventuality of layer 2s becoming expensive because they're not built in such a way that a layer 1 as Elrond is built?
Well, no, it is a good question. And coming down, I think down the line where there's a few more as to why Elrond, right, is because of the very low transaction costs and the high speed of those transactions as well, and the ability to scale, the amount of transactions you can handle. So no one has all the answers now. And if you say you do, then you're not in you're not in the cryptocurrency blockchain space, because it moves so fast and the development is always happening at lightning speed. So we're doing what is best for now, what's going to improve and allow us to scale to a certain level. What that looks like with partnerships and new arrangements with guys like yourselves, with Elrond, we're always looking at interoperability. We don't believe the future is one chain. The future will be multiple chains, and the future will be interoperability between multiple chains. So, hence why we have looked at partnering with guys like yourselves, because L2 may not be the answer in a couple of years' time, but it may be the answer now for the next while to get to that next level of growth.
Completely understand. That's a good answer. I mean, it's important to move forward but also have kind of that trump card in your back pocket, right? Being able to say, okay, well, we're doing this now, but we also have something that's even better coming next. So I totally understand.
And it's a good question, and it's always a really hot topic of debate, isn't it?
It is. I think it's probably the hottest topic of debate, layer 1s versus layer 2s, just in general with Elrond aside. So thanks for that answer. That's great. So we have a few things about the security features about the Aorus card. What if somebody loses it or loses both the phone and its card? It's a pretty arbitrary question, but...
Yeah, I mean, listen, I come from also a financial planning background, and a lot of that is also, you get questions about, well, listen, you've got to manage your own, if it's not your keys, not your crypto, right? That's one of the key things. But the private keys are actually stored within the card. We've looked at this and said, okay, well, don't go keep $1 million in a card, right? Keep what you want in the card, to have on a hardware wallet, right, or cold storage. But you can also use a ledger, you can use a Trezor. The card ultimately can also be used with the POS systems in future. So yeah, keep on there what you want on a physically removable item or storage wallet. It will have, and we have looked at providing, and I think that's the key here, is that we will provide sort of a 2 of 3 key management system or multi-sig backup with the cards as well, if people want to store much more considerable sums on there, which will be an opt-in service, like any sort of external custody services as well, which can further protect your assets.
Yeah, that's a traditional to DeFi bridge that you guys are kind of taking. You can maybe have some kind of backup. Cool. So how can you ensure that you are competitive enough to sufficiently grow within this decentralized market?
Well, I mean, I think that's...
I think this really depends on the partners that you have also. And going for a centralized approach is always easier than going for the approach that we have chosen. Because where you go for a centralized approach, it's very easy. You take 10 million of gold, you tokenize it, talk to a couple of exchanges and start marketing it. We are actually delegating all these things. So we need to have all these strong partners lined up, believing in the security of the smart contracts that were written, believing in the partnerships we have with the vault partners, with the market participants. Our board, of course, must be very strong, which it is, and then sign them all up, working together, collaborating in creating these tokens instead of competing against each other. This was probably the hardest thing to do, and it took a lot of networking and industry experts to get to where we are right now, that we actually have this in place. That makes the decentralized nature also very important, because the single point of failure is cut out of it, or at least reduced significantly, because we're not working with one vault partner, or we're not working in one demographic region, and we're not working with one gold provider. It's all, you have global liquidity and global access to the product. If you're in Canada, Chile, Zurich, Switzerland, or Singapore, or whatever, same goes for the gold providing parts. And this is continuing to grow now. If you look at where we started 2 years ago, with actually one vault and one partner to have the proof of concept ready, and now 2 years later, having partners and vaults almost on every continent already. And now having the latest exchange talks and the launch of the V2 in early October. I mean, that's significant.
I think so too.
And to touch on that, I think it's a very good question, and it deserves a little bit more, because a big USP to what we do as well is it's not sexy to create a gold token, right? There's a lot of people who can do it, and Guido touched on the centralized approach, where you've just got a central trust or a one vault, right, with one store, one point of failure potential. But also that's fine. You can scale a lot easier because you're only dealing with one party, one counterparty. But there are further risks and hurdles that come with that, right? Now, the way we're doing it is obviously creating a more decentralized supply and distribution model. But also what Aurus does is we provide the software, but we're also looking at enhancing the usability of metals always, by creating further products around the usage of precious metals. And that could be in the form of, our app, which we'll be developing, well, which we are developing now with the new launch of the L2 that'll be running on the app, which will have its own software wallet, which will be non-custodial. You can keep all your tokens in one place now. You can do in-app swaps, you can do in-app purchasing of precious metals. We're going to have back-end, an easy sort of yield generating products within the app. So that it's making DeFi easy for the retail customer to get involved with. Using POS systems for clients to top up their precious metals, either onto their card or directly into the app, to have interoperability with chains like Elrond as well. Your Maya wallet is brilliant. It's got a great user interface. It's so simple and really helps with onboarding. So we're looking at developing auxiliary products around the usage of precious metals.
Yeah, and I think that was another question down the line about yield farming and all that sort of stuff, and being able, the interoperability of everything and providing other products around that to earn is a game changer, I think.
To stay competitive, as fast.
Yeah, that's awesome. I have a question before we move on, with just liquidity, right? So have you guys thought about how your own specific app is going to deal with liquidity, and to ensure there's no big slippage, or you have a decent amount of value locked within your system?
I think that also depends on which pools you're referring to, what functions you give users within the app. But yeah, from a liquidity perspective, it's key. Liquidity allows you to build products. It allows you to build in, consistency, which means, less slippage when swapping tokens. So a lot of the capital that we're raising and will be raising over the coming months again will also go into, putting liquidity into these pools, but then also incentivizing outside users to go and provide liquidity, right? And do yield farming for some of our AWX tokens, our utility tokens, to incentivize long-term liquidity provision. The bigger we can grow these DeFi pools, the more consistent the products will be, the more consistent the swapping will be, the less slippage there is always. So yeah, it's a massive focus for us, and one where we'll put our own assets behind too.
Yeah, that's good to hear, because I think that's what kills projects nowadays. And part of the reason I get involved with projects or provide liquidity or whatever, I always look at these incentives. I look at what they're doing in order to keep people within the farm or within the liquidity pool, and how that TVL, total value locked, keeps going up and doesn't go down. And I think you answered that great, and it's good that it's on your mind, because if it wasn't, I think you'd have a bit of an issue going in from the start if you didn't focus on liquidity.
Absolutely, liquidity is the key to everything.
Absolutely, yeah, that's great. Okay, so where can we get Aurus tokens today?
Very simply, if you look at our website, we are busy revamping the whole website. So there's a lot of investment going into that, and a lot of new thought into the customer journeys. But if you go on there now and you look at the distributor pages, you can actually find all the links to our distributor partners, right? Where you can go and actually buy the tokens on their websites, plus also all the partner exchanges where they're available.
Yeah, and soon, once you get integrated to Elrond as well, you'll be available to purchase there as well and trade there. Yeah. There's another person you're asking, what other wallets are you considering to use? You guys are making your own wallet, which is great. I think that's going to be a game changer for you as well. But he says that you're planning to use MetaMask, or it is used now maybe because it's ERC20. So he doesn't feel comfortable, or he doesn't feel comfortable with that. So I guess this is kind of your time to talk more about your wallet specifically.
Sure. I mean, listen, it's always a tricky one to say, they're not comfortable with a wallet, and you've got to find, in the beginning, you've got to find a decent third-party partner. MetaMask, has been, maybe a little bit clunky in the user interface initially. I think they're improving that, but it is giving you access to the whole world of Web3 dApps, right? So, it really is a key to DeFi. Does it mean that that's the only wallet you can use? No, but it is a wallet that gives you a lot of functionality in DeFi. We are building our own software wallet, as you mentioned, so all multi-assets, gold, silver, platinum, and our utility token or RevShare token, AWX, you can hold in that. We will also look to, incorporate, potentially tokens like eGold as well, into our wallet as well. If there's, the partnership opportunities we've been discussing with you guys prior to this AMA too. There's also other wallets like Engine, who's got a really good security in it. Atomic Wallet, Garda as well, which is in the top 10 rated software wallets in terms of security as well. So we're constantly looking at giving our users the ability to use whatever wallet that they are comfortable with. Right now, they've got about 3 or 4 different options.
We already have some bigger investors that have their tokens on their hardware wallets.
And
Ledger and Trezor.
And those are
that's all already compatible.
Exactly. Yeah, Ledger, Trezor, plus obviously the card is also a hardware wallet as well.
Yeah. Awesome. That's a great answer. Okay, so let's move on just into the Elrond stuff. Because I know there's probably a ton of people here. We've talked a little bit about it, but can you guys we kind of touched on it a bit, but let's just make it more official. Why did you guys choose to work with Elrond, and how did that partnership come about?
Listen, I think, firstly, we know that partnerships are key. You try and do everything yourself, it just takes longer, and you can't, claim to know everything. So we know in this game that partnerships are really key. We've had our eye on Elrond. We really like the interface. There's as we've discussed earlier in the discussion, scaling problems, with certain networks. Ethereum being one of them, that cat's out the bag in terms of layer 1. So the transaction volume you can accommodate, your user base, the uniqueness between the ESD token as well that you utilize. So there's a lot of benefits to.
Don't forget the ticker EGLD, because it's gold, of course.
Well, you see, I was waiting for you guys to say it. It's been on my tip of my tongue the whole time. Yeah. Yeah, it's been on the tip of my tongue now for a bit. I'm like, I wonder if they're going to mention it.
It would be a great trading pair, though. EGLD against gold.
ADVG and EGLD, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'd imagine in the future we're going to see stuff like that.
Definitely.
A lot of the questions now about Elrond are just, will we see AWG, AWS, AWP on Get Mired just like the rest? And I would say absolutely we will. That's the goal with the partnership from what I understand.
Yeah, and definitely. And that was, by the way, I love how that the app of the Get Mired app is developed. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, we touched on that. The interface is amazing, right? For onboarding, it's so simple to use.
Yeah.
We actually take a lot of inspiration from it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the one thing that Elrond does is that exactly. It's all about user experience, user interface first, and obviously security. But they've definitely taken that user experience aspect of blockchain and took it to a whole new level. And once we get more tokens and stuff in there, it's there's the endless possibilities, and I think that's great that you guys have taken a lot of inspiration from Elrond and have gotten to this point. And I'll take this opportunity on the whole community to say thank you for coming on board, and we're happy to have you.
No, thank you. Yeah, I really appreciate that. We look forward to it, man. And I mean the potential there. I mean, and just looking at some of the notes I made as well regarding the Maya exchange as well. You've got some amazing algorithms out there nowadays where we can consolidate different liquidity pools and make a huge amount of different trading pairs depending on EGLD versus silver, gold, platinum. To enhance that usability and that competitive edge, for users of precious metals to get value out of it through partnerships like this and the interoperability between our projects.
Yeah, and I mean the other beauty of Elrond is the amount of partnerships they have, and some of those partnerships that you'll be able to tap into that will help create that interoperability and widen your liquidity pools as well. So it's kind of a win-win win. We'll do 3 wins on that one.
Which is a great way of doing business, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay, so there's one question. How will this partnership benefit the community? Let's say, how does it benefit both our communities? I'll change that question just slightly.
Yep. Well, again, I think with everything we've discussed in this whole AMA is that interoperability between what we provide and what you guys provide, what you can take inspiration from, what we can take inspiration from. And then it's real assets with real value, right? It's not speculative assets in the back end generating the yield, which could fall apart like a house of cards, which you've seen in certain protocols and certain types of assets. Will all cryptocurrencies be around in the future? No, a smart, wise man will probably say no, because a lot of them are, don't actually have an intrinsic value. So what do we bring to the Elrond community? Real assets, backed by real assets with real value, where at the end of the day, you can use these in the decentralized finance space to, grow your wealth, protect your wealth, and add real value to your own portfolios.
Yeah, I think that's huge. Just the real assets thing, and I've always been talking about on other streams about the importance of traditional finance bridging towards over to DeFi, and I think providing that as an Elrond user and holder, being able to shift a lot of my gold over to you guys right within my own little ecosystem is just it's a no-brainer.
It's amazing. I mean, and it just comes down to, we look to obviously build as much trust into the system. Hence why you have certain quality controls like LBMA standards, like 2 of 3 and multi-sig and different sharding in terms of custodianship, depending on who the custodians are, to build as much trust and security into the system. Yes, that does come with a cost because security and trust is not free. But if you can build in usability on top of that and the ability for people to earn an easy yield on their assets, I think you've really got a game changer here. And the ability for a lot of people to then thrive, right? And to not only allow the 1% that we always talk about to get the biggest slice of the pie. Even if your slice of the pie is smaller, at least you're getting the ability to, to grab hold of that to improve your future, where I think there's a lot of inequality in the world and where we can actually bring that back.
Great attitude to have, and glad you're on the side of the people. And I think everyone else, not even Elrond, are going to be happy about that. That's why I got into blockchain as well. It's just strictly to bring the power back to the people. Stop paying negative interest. So we have just a few questions here in the chat, and then I think we can finish. There's one here from Carolina. She says, "Would you actually consider minting physical gold with Elrond related images?" So basically, what she's saying is would you actually mint gold into a piece of art NFT?
She wants an Elrond coin.
And minting a physical gold coins with Elrond related images. Yeah. So yeah.
So, definitely we can make actually the physical malls if that's possible. If you make the designs and there's interest on your community, we can sell them to them.
Maybe you should do a little community outreach, like a little competition.
Yeah. Well, there's actually a guy yesterday who I shared on my company's website of a guy who's making a little mold in a coin. I don't know what metal it was, but there's actually one out there. I'll tag you guys in it after so you can take a look at it. Just realized what her question meant. I thought she meant she wanted to pair the gold with the NFT, but I suppose the coin would have an NFT attached to it too. And Elrond also has that NFT marketplace coming out, so I'm sure there'll be a use case there as well.
Definitely. Again, with tokenization as a service, anything is possible. I mean, we're already using NFT technology, for our ERC 721, which is an NFT, right?
Yeah, it is, yeah.
The master
it
contract.
was an NFT before the NFTs because it was created already in 2019.
It's amazing. People have actually been interacting with NFTs before this whole craze.
Yeah.
They just haven't realized that, anything that's digital with an IP, now you're just making it tradable and, I guess easily identifiable, right? With its own unique identifier.
I think it's the scalability and then, all that. And then it took a while for people just to understand what Bitcoin was, me included. 2014, I think I finally wrapped my head around it. But yeah, you're right. NFTs have been around. Just now we're getting them thrown in our faces. This is another question, bit controversial, but it's a good question nonetheless. They want to know, do we know 100% where our gold is coming from? So, is the gold fair trade essentially?
Well, there are standards, for instance, from the London Metals Bullion Market Association. Do you know it 100% sure? You can never, because I will explain how kilobar is being born at a refinery. So refineries work on two pieces of streaming from the gold from which they mint the bar. One of them is actually coming from mines in the form of doré in granules or whatever. That can be pretty well traced, so you know which mine you're working with in Canada, Australia, or US, or some authorized mines in Africa even that can actually legally export. The other part is, of course, the recycling part, metal scraps, and that can be the old part, because if you have an 80-year-old gold coin or necklace, there's a big chance it may have come from an artisanal mine in Burkina Faso. Or Sierra Leone or whatever. So you cannot rule that out. That old gold the gold recycling market is massive. I mean, it accounts for more than 20% of every year's melted gold into bars at refineries all around the world. So can you always rule it out? Never. But can you rule it out for the new gold that comes in from the mines? Yes.
And ultimately, you've got to work with standards that are available to you. We can't be at the source of the mine with feet on the ground, monitoring everything. So what we can do is we can exclude any questionable sources of gold. And by and the way you do that is you use a standard like the LBMA or like the DMCC, right? Who puts these very strict refining standards in place.
ESG at the moment is such a hot topic in every conference I go to, and you cannot rule out an 80-year-old coin or necklace to come into the system. I mean, what do you want to do? Rule it out because you cannot define the source? It's impossible. But for currently mined products, the standards are getting better and better, and you can actually say that refineries are now introducing green gold and etc., which is a marketing tactic, of course, but the standards are so high at the moment that for current gold, it can be ruled out for like a big part.
It's a good question though, because
definitely
the more adoption you get and the more metals that have tokenized and are actually on the blockchain, right, and have an immutable, source of origin, the more clear and the more clarity you're going to have on origin of the product. And ESG is going to become, it is coming even bigger, right? And the moment you've got your big BlackRocks and your huge Fidelity asset managers making ESG a box that needs to be ticked by anyone who's investing, and that moves into the precious metals game, and it's on an immutable blockchain, you're going to have a much more clear upstream and downstream of the metals, in time.
Yeah, and I think you kind of stole my comment. It's basically what no, it's fine. So you're so basically what Aurus is doing is actually sorry, I thought I was just frozen there. Sorry. No, but so basically what Aurus is doing is actually helping get rid of this blood gold or whatever you want to call it, right? So by doing what you guys are doing, tokenizing, creating NFTs, and actually putting a bit more structure around the gold, you're actually starting to reduce that blood gold and move forward from the new gold. So I think that's actually really cool. And I mean, my grandma's necklace, she left me. There's no way I could know. And I mean, you probably could get it analyzed and they could tell you what mine it came from, but that's expensive, and so you have this whole other bag of chicks, right?
Yes, the crazy thing about gold is the necklace or the ring you're wearing or the gold coin. It can even come from 5,000-year-old Egyptian gold. I mean, gold doesn't evaporate in the world, so
there will always be some of that.
Some of that around. So,
historic stuff.
Okay, so there is one more question here, and do you think you'd be able to tokenize 1 ounce of Britannia coins?
Hey, interesting question. We actually have a pilot project lying around into countries that have capital gains tax exempt regimes for specific gold coins. It's not just the UK. We have a pilot project around which we're working on with a UK refinery, and also in some other country we are working on a similar story. It again will be an ERC20 linked to an NFT-like project 721. But the pilot is around. But first we're going for this version 2. I think that's a super cool question because there's somebody with a knowledge of gold coins, which I like. And actually, talking about Britannia's, we have one here in the show, by the way.
Oh, you have one? That's cool.
We are working actually to tokenize this also, hopefully in the future, to have a CGT exempt product for UK clients.
That's cool. So good question there. Awesome. And I guess that's it. We don't really have any more questions. I think everyone's super excited in the community. And again, I want to thank you both for coming on and taking the time to tell us a little bit more about Aurus. I've got a lot more excited just talking to you guys and learning more. As I said, I've been researching the past couple weeks, and when I was asked to do this, it made sense. So thank you. And everyone here from the community in Elrond, welcome aboard, and we look forward to the future for you guys and seeing some more of you.
Yeah, we're excited too. And Kevin, look forward to chatting again. Thanks for your time.
Next time I'll take my sunglasses.
Oh, yeah, right.
What we'll do is if we've missed anything, we can always just share in your Telegram community there. And
I think Jelle, our marketing associate, made a nice offer for the Elrond community with regards to Aurus, which he is going to share.
Yeah, I believe that's an Elrond thing. So just Elrond Partners is actually a community-led project, and I'm actually a partner of Elrond myself. I run a blockchain company, and so together we all kind of run this as a community-led project to get information from you guys as a community, and it's not as rigid. So we're able to have these much closer conversations. So yeah, I would say look out on the Elrond official channels for that. We don't have the authority or ability to do something like that. As I said, we're a community based project, and we do this. Obviously, we work close with Elrond, but we do this in order to achieve conversations like this that are more open and coming from a partner to another partner.
Good to know.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, so thanks again, and it was nice having you guys, and I think we'll end here. Thanks everybody for coming on, and we'll see you next time. Later.
Yeah. Cheers for now. Bye.
Bye. Okay. Yeah.